My name is Julie Sullivan, and I am the Recycling Education and Compliance Officer for South Shore Recycling Cooperative. Okay, so South Shore Recycling Cooperative is a government organization of 15 towns on the South Shore, and we help towns decrease the quantity and the toxicity of their trash through offering better waste management solutions and connecting them with kind of the best options for their needs, and kind of providing services like I do, sort of outreach and enforcement, helping towns decrease the cost of their trash by kind of diverting more materials into the recycling. And so far that's why a lot of towns have stuck with us, because they're finding that we can actually help them achieve those ends. So I would say that probably most accurately, recycling became a more prevalent practice during World War I and II, when you really had to like conserve what you had and reuse parts, and like turning tin cans into rivets and that kind of thing. But it really took hold as like a state regulated practice maybe back in the 70s. I know that's actually when a lot of the landfills around here started converting from just a place where you could drive up and throw your trash over your shoulder and drive away, to a place where they kind of started regulating what you could and could not put in the trash, and then it kind of evolved into recycling that we know today with like cans, bottles, glass, etc. And plastic in particular was never really an issue maybe 100 years ago, because it was something that never was used at all. But now plastic obviously is one of the biggest packaging components that we have today, so there's more of a demand for that kind of recycling as well. And so I personally think and believe that it's a really important practice, because towns end up paying a lot for their trash. Like I know right now Cohasset pays $83 a ton for their trash, but with source separated recycling, a lot of these recyclables generate a revenue stream to the town, especially things like corrugated cardboard, which are especially lucrative right now. But really every recyclable has that potential to bring the town money and keep things out of the trash, so their trash costs are lower as well. So I think that in some places it's more heavily regulated in practice than in others. I know that Massachusetts as a state takes it really seriously, and the Department of Environmental Protection is willing to offer a lot of municipalities grants and things like they have the recycling dividends program, where towns are awarded points for their efforts in recycling. So for example, if you have like a composting area, that's a certain amount of points. If you offer like mercury recycling or electronics recycling, you get a certain amount of points, and those points at the end of the fiscal year are turned into money that's given to the towns to kind of keep those programs going, and they can use it kind of for whatever they want in town.
Now, how do you feel about the new head of the EPA, Pruitt, has sued the EPA 14 times. And we've got a president who's a climate change denier. How do you think the future will end up with that?
I think that they're kind of just, even though they seem to be in a really powerful position, it's people like us who come out here every day and just kind of talk to people face to face and speak our truth about climate change and environmental protection. And I think that the more of people like me there are out there, the better off we are. And from what I can gather, there's still a really big group of people in this country who are getting ever increasingly serious about fighting climate change, and that's what gives me hope. I mean, I don't look at people like them when I think of our climate change future, because if I did, then that would be horribly depressing. But you know, a lot of people are in the environmental field are just out here doing our best and coming up with creative solutions, and I think that's really going to be what the future looks like.
What about from a funding standpoint?
So a lot of, like for my organization, for example, we're completely reliant on funding from our member towns, and my job in particular is funded by Mass DEP, and they have this thing called the Sustainable Materials Recovery Program, and that's kind of like a fund that comes from the place where Cohasset and a lot of surrounding towns bring their trash, called CMAS. That's a waste to energy facility, so when they burn the trash, it gets turned into energy, and a lot of that energy can be sold back to the grid for credits, and half of the money from those credits goes into the DEP's Sustainable Materials Fund, and that's where my funding comes from. So there's, again, a lot of room for creativity and a lot of ways that these organizations kind of keep themselves funded. So, I mean, it's easy to look out there and get scared with everything that's going on right now, but I think that there's a lot of reasons to be hopeful.
Yay.
So now I'm going to show you how to recycle properly in Cohasset.
Go.
All right, so this is the trash area where people throw away their trash in their blue bags. And this gets a lot of business. People back in, throw away their trash. Over here we got the metal pile. So a lot of this stuff is pretty valuable, so that's why you can kind of keep it separate, drop it off for free. And over here, we've got the construction and demolition trailer where you can pay to get rid of certain items, like the items on that sign.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so hopefully this person won't back into us.
Do you have a Red Cross donation drop-off?
Yes, we do. So this is one of the textile bins here that goes to the Red Cross, of course. You can donate anything. So this is another thing about textiles. People think that you can't donate things like ripped socks or ripped clothes or like things that you wouldn't necessarily wear, like a sheet or something, but you actually can, because even textiles that are unwearable get turned into things like car seat fill and wiping rags, and it's really nice because it just kind of gives the clothing one more use before the end of its lifetime.
I never knew that. That's awesome.
Yeah. And so here we have the returnables shed. So that's basically your refundable bottles and cans with the 5-cent rebate on them, and when you bring them here, they go to local groups like the Boy Scouts. The proceeds from those bottles and cans go to the Boy Scouts. I'm not sure if they go anywhere else, but there's always, I think, a Boy Scout in there kind of holding things down and managing it.
They'll get their badges for this?
I hope so. They better have a recycling badge. So here we got the tin cans, where it's looking like it's pretty much all tin cans right now, which is good. If it's any soda cans, those are probably non-refundables, because a lot of soda cans are not.
Live action. Live action. That's awesome.
Yeah, we even got some dudes throwing some stuff in. This is just a trailer. Don't know what's in there. Here is another textile donation trailer. This goes to Bay State Textiles, not Red Cross, but it's kind of the same idea where, you know, if you have anything, even if you think you can't wear it, you can toss it in there and they'll find a use for it. The only caveat is it can't be wet or moldy or contaminated with hazardous waste.
Beautiful.
Yes. And here we have the glass recycling center. It's pretty straightforward. They just put your glass on here. They put it in the thing over there. You can put your corks in here.
Oh, those are so all non-returnable. What do they do with the cork?
I think I actually saw someone, he comes and takes the corks because he does like some kind of project with them, which is really cool. I really like when people upcycle things like that, because that's what it's called, when you kind of take something you would normally recycle or throw away and turn it into like something else. Like, I know a lot of people make tables with like bottle cap tops and stuff. Yeah. And so like you can put caps and lids here too.
Great.
And so here we have the junk mail, also paperboard, because another myth kind of that I have to dispel a lot is like these kind of things, like people think that they go in the trash sometimes because they're not corrugated cardboard, which is like the cardboard with like the waves in between, but these are actually recycled as paper. So
they did the right thing.
Yes, they did the right thing. And then this is kind of more paper. To be honest, I'm not really sure what separates this paper from that paper. I think it's all just paper, so I'm assuming it all goes to the right place. Got some plastics over here. Take a look in there. All of those are acceptable. I don't think these cartons belong here, but like these plastics, even the more like rigid containers, those can be recycled here.
It's full of boxes just like that.
And here we got the corrugated cardboard section, which, like I was saying earlier, is probably the highest value recyclable.
And it must change from time to time, all this.
Yeah, the market's always fluctuating, but for the most part, recycling is always a more economically sound activity than throwing away trash in more ways than one, because you can kind of reuse things before you recycle them, which means that you don't have to make new stuff. And through recycling, you don't have to make new stuff either, because you're saving resources upstream from getting turned into stuff like cans, trees getting cut down to make more paper, etc. So it's a really beneficial practice as a whole.
Awesome.
Yeah. We can go over here. So here we got like some electronics, some mercury light bulbs, batteries. Again, all things that we want to keep out of the trash, and as long as they end up over here, you know, in somewhat the right place, they will get put in their right place in the end. Got some book donations here. And here is the boutique. Feel free to...
Today.
Yeah, I know. A lot of people are in and out of here all day, kind of snatching things up. Sometimes things in here maybe don't belong here, but for the most part, I mean, I've even gotten some like good books out of here before, just kind of poking my head in. So again, this is kind of like the reuse aspect of it. If you don't really feel comfortable throwing away something or even recycling it, you can put it here, and someone might use it in their own house for like 20 years. So
Great, so to make use of it.
yeah. And then this right here. Oops. You can cut that part out.
No, I didn't see that.
I didn't see that either. This is where the universal waste, aka fluorescent light bulbs and mercury devices, go. So those are things we really want to keep out of the trash, so much that CMAS, like they cover the funding for these kind of things, just because we put mercury on there, because
Sure.
it's so toxic and harmful to the trash.
And where will that go eventually?
There's definitely separate mercury recycling facilities. I don't know exactly where they are,
Okay,
but there's something that can be done with that kind of separate from all of the other recyclable streams. And this is the office slash where you can bring your used oil and filters and antifreeze and other car related items.
Great.
And then we got the compost slash yard waste pile over here.
So people can come and take compost as well as leave it, or they just leave it here?
I'm not entirely sure about that, but I've seen it happen in other places, but I don't want to say anything that's wrong.
Okay, no, that's fine.
yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much the whole place. So now you know how to use the Cohasset Recycling and Transfer Facility.